Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Majority of investors are focused on AI story now. I think there is something more attractive in the stock market with the longer trend which might become even a next hyper cycle. Because the real bottleneck over the next decade may not be artificial intelligence. It most likely be electricity. Have you noticed that over the last couple of years, everyone has been talking about AI? In fact, I noticed something interesting just this morning. After my morning walk, I stopped for a coffee, and at the table just next to me, there were three retired men talking about the stock market, and they were discussing AI chip companies like Micron, SK Hynix, and SanDisk. Even I don't follow them closely. So they were speaking about how much they would go up, and maybe it's a good time to invest now. So it made me realize just how the mainstream this story has become. And AI is not just something engineers or investors talk about anymore. It's a part of everyday conversation. Every headline seems to be about NVIDIA, GPUs, data centers, and the shortage of computing power. The whole world became obsessed with one question: how do we build enough computing capacity for artificial intelligence? But the more I think about it, the more I feel that we are looking at only half of the picture. Because GPUs and CPUs don't run on air or magic, they run on electricity. And that's why I think the next major investment theme may not be AI itself, it may be energy. I'm not saying AI is over. Quite opposite, in fact. AI is probably just getting started. But every new data center, every new AI model, every additional GPU eventually creates demand for one thing: electricity. At first, the bottleneck was compute. Now I think the bottleneck is slowly shifting toward the energy. And it's not only AI. We are electrifying transportation. Electric vehicles need power. Then we are electrifying heating with heat pumps. Then factories are becoming more and more automated. Our digital infrastructure keeps expanding. The world simply needs more electricity than ever before. And one thing that caught my attention is offshore wind. Some of you probably know that I already have some shares of Cadeler, the Danish wind player. And I did not buy the company because I wanted exposure to renewable energy. I just bought the shares because I liked the business model. And Cadeler builds and operates specialized vessels that install offshore wind turbines. And what's interesting is that despite all the negative headlines around wind energy, the company keeps investing. This year, they announced two additional T-class installation vessels. Just think about it for a second. These ships cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is not a decision you make because you are optimistic for the next 6 months. You make that kind of investment because you believe that demand will remain strong for the many years. And to me, that's much more interesting than opinions on the social media. So the people working inside the industry are putting the real money behind their expectations. At the same time, public sentiment around wind energy has become much more negative. We've seen criticism from politicians, we've seen projects delayed or cancelled. Some turbine manufacturers struggle to make some profit on it. There are plenty of reasons to be pessimistic, and yet Europe continues building offshore wind farms. The UK, Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, the Baltic Sea region, even countries that were not traditionally involved, like Turkey, are now exploring offshore wind projects. So, I see a disconnect. The headlines tell one story, but the capital spending tells another one. And offshore wind is only one piece of a much bigger picture. Because when I think about energy, I'm not thinking only about wind turbines. I'm thinking about natural gas, nuclear power, then small modular reactors, grid infrastructure, transformers, power transmission, energy storage, everything required to generate, move, and deliver electricity. If electricity becomes one of the biggest constraints over the next decade, then all of these industries become more important. And that's why I'm starting to spend more time researching this sector. Not because I know exactly which company will be the biggest winner. I believe nobody knows that. But because I think the overall direction is becoming increasingly clear. Cadeler is already part of my portfolio. Now I'm looking beyond offshore wind and trying to understand the broader energy ecosystem. Maybe this will become one of the biggest investment themes of the next decade. Maybe I'm wrong. But the more evidence I see, the more convinced I become that energy deserves much more attention than it's getting today. And over the next few months, I'll probably share the research with you as I continue exploring this space. Thanks for watching, guys, and please like and comment the video and subscribe to the channel if you didn't do so. And I'll see you in the next one.